Ignore the solo cup in the background. I'm moving, okay, and I purchased disposable plates and cups for a picnic 1 year ago. I'm not trying to kill the environment, I'm just trying to make life a little bit easier and not wash so many dishes because I'm moving soon. Ich ziehe nach Deutschland. I'm moving to Germany. Ugh, I'm already getting off the rails. Okay, so one of my big goals this summer was to really improve my German. And yes, that's, like I said, because I'm moving there at the end of the month. I'm very excited. And one thing I have really counted on to prepare me for this new chapter of my life in Germany is the Lingoda Sprint, or I guess was the Lingoda Sprint because it's over. I just finished it today, actually. Now, if you've never heard of the Lingoda Sprint before, first of all, what kind of rock are you living under? I feel like it's everywhere. I feel like everyone in the online language learning community has either already done it, they're thinking about doing it. Everyone's doing it. Don't you want to be cool? Don't you want to do it? Okay, well, first of all, Lingoda is an online language school with classes in German, French, Spanish, English, and now Italian as well. Or wait. No, that one. And these classes, it's either small group classes with like no more than 5 people or one-on-one classes, so you can get your own personalized experience. And the Lingoda Sprint is a 60-day language learning challenge where you either take 30 or 60 classes over the period of 2 months. So in other terms, that's either a class every other day, like I did, or a class every day if you're hardcore, which I am not yet. And the reason why it's a challenge specifically is because if you finish all of the classes that you sign up for, you can either get half of your money back or just more free classes to keep on learning. And I actually just wanted to share this message really quick. I got this today from a person named Aiden who just finished the sprint themselves, in fact. Hi, I started the Lingoda Sprint in Spanish on June 8th, so exact, after seeing your videos about it, and I just finished it, I completed it, and will be getting another 60 credits towards my account. You really inspired me to just practice. Try new languages. Don't get all sappy in my DMs. Oh my god. No, but that's great. That's great. You guys know I talk about Lingoda all the time, and I'm glad it's working for you guys too. So as of like 2 hours ago, yeah, 2 hours, I've finished 2 straight months of German classes, just small group speaking classes, just to like skyrocket my German. So today I just want to talk about my experience doing the Lingoda Sprint for German. I want to talk about who the sprint is best for and whether it's worth it for you personally. And I also want to share how you can get the most out of it if you're thinking about doing the sprint yourself. I am a 2-timer. Now, wait, that's not what that means. I mean, I've done it twice. No, if you say in English, if you're saying you're a 2-timer, that means you're a cheater. Like, you're cheating on somebody. I'm not a 2-timer. Hold up. I will say one more thing. This is a sponsored review, but you guys know that your trust, it means everything to me, and I only work with brands that I actually personally recommend and actually use. I just think there's so much junk in the language learning realm, like all of the apps and services that don't actually do that much. So yeah, I really am selective about what I promote, and Lingoda is just a great service through and through. First of all, if you're wondering why a person, me, would put themselves through speaking German every single day, let me lay it all out for you. Who is the sprint good for? If you struggle with consistency or forming a good habit in your language learning, it's a great option. I mean, first of all, just think about it. On average, it takes what, like 60, 62, 66 days or something like that to form a new habit. And how long is the Lingoda Sprint? You don't gotta be a scientist to figure that one out. You know, whether you're taking classes every day in the super sprint or every other day in the regular sprint like I did, you're gonna get so used to making the language a part of your everyday life, and just figure out how that looks for you and how you can keep on that habit even after the sprint is over. And with that said, the classes that you're taking, they're just 1 hour long, and they're offered like literally 24/7 pretty much every hour of the day, like 9 a.m. 2 p.m. 2 a.m. So if you're someone that doesn't have a lot of time to like formally study a language, or if you have crazy hours, or if you're a really busy student but you still want to practice a language consistency, the sprint is perfect for you. Now, this next one is a bit more specific, a little more niche if you will, but for language proficiency exams, this is also a great option. And I can speak from personal experience because this is what I did for the DELF C1 exam last year, so my French exam. So I was preparing for my DELF C1 exam, and I decided to do the sprint for French. One, because I felt like a lot of the topics that are in the Lingoda classes really align with what is on the exam. Stuff like, you know, technology, culture, work, society. And Lingoda also organizes their classes by CEFR levels. So I was mainly taking classes in like the B2 to C1 area, and it really helped. I passed. I got an 87 out of 100 on the exam. I've made a video about it here if you want to go watch that. I remember in my speaking and writing portion of the exam, so like the productive parts of the exam, I remember specifically using vocabulary and like phrases that I learned in my Lingoda classes. It was so useful. I feel like I should put a little disclaimer though that, you know, obviously Lingoda classes are not designed for test prep. It's just it really aligns and overlaps with what you'll find on these exams, like the DELE, you know, for Spanish, the DELF for French, or like the Goethe Institute exams for German. Okay, next and last, I will say if you just need a boost of inspiration, if you're bored of your language learning routine and you just want to like challenge yourself and do something really fulfilling and fun, the sprint is just, it's great for that. It's a home run. I just think of it like a side quest. I love calling things language side quests. Like another current language side quest I have going on right now is I'm studying European Portuguese. Don't ask me about it right now. We're very private right now, but yeah, I do think about a lot of my language studies as just side quests. But I want to talk now specifically about my experience doing the Lingo to Sprint for German. I already talked about my experience with French, but that was a really different experience. You know, like I said, when I did it for French, I was specifically trying to learn to speak about topics, like really advanced topics that I knew would be on an advanced exam. But for German, for this time, I decided to focus more on like everyday topics to prepare myself for life in Germany. For the longest, I've kept having these realizations that I can talk about really advanced things in German, like seamlessly. I can talk about, you know, migration stuff in Germany. I can talk about freedom of speech or the history of Jewish people in the United States. But then again, I can't like give directions, or I can't describe how a food smells in German. And that it's super humbling. I'll be the first to say that I still mess up basic prepositions when I'm talking in German. I'll say like ich gehe in Deutschland instead of nach Deutschland. Even though I know that's wrong in my head, just like I haven't practiced it and said it out loud enough sometimes to like actually put that into practice. But anyways, my point is, I thought to myself, like, you know, I'm gonna be needing a lot more of this everyday vocabulary polished off to be comfortable in everyday life in Germany. So because of that, because I just wanted to practice like the everyday vocabulary in Germany, I basically focused my sprint on like the A1 to B1 levels, so like very basic German, which it's really great that they let you do the classes in whatever order you want on Lingoda. I really appreciate that. It might seem silly, but I think earlier in my German learning, I just wanted to get advanced like as soon as possible. So I think I surpassed a lot of like necessary vocabulary, you know, because I just wanted to like speed run fluency somehow. That, and I feel like I just focused way too much on grammar. Okay, that's a separate video, but my point is, I just glossed over a lot, and I think that I also wanted to like just study a lot of grammar because I knew that that was like the big thing with German. So anyways, yeah, a lot of that just everyday stuff got neglected. So here are some clips of some of the classes I took and how I went about improving that. Cue the montage. Ligator, Fleischbällchen.
Ja, ja.
Und
ja, Krokodilfleisch und sowas. Mhm.
Ja, aber das ist nicht so häufig zu sehen, aber es gibt ab und zu Leuten oder Restaurants, die das machen.
Elisa, was du gerne isst und was braucht man dazu für Zutaten, für Ingredients?
Ja, ich denke, in den USA haben wir nicht so viele typische Gerichte, aber also die eigentlich aus den USA kommen. Also ich vergesse, wie man das sagt, like a melting pot. Es gibt hier also Gerichten von L'Oréal, weißt du. So I forgot to record a little snippet of the class that I just did on trennbare Verben, separable verbs, so I'm just gonna do a little review. Kommst du mit? Was nimmst du mit? So they're trying to get you to make sentences with mitkommen and mitnehmen, like matching with these vocabs. So like ins Theater, kommst du ins Theater mit? Are you coming with us in the theater? Nimmst du Bargeld mit? Kommst du, oh, Bargeld is cash, so are you bringing cash? Why did I just say cash like a German? Cash? I love the way the Germans pronounce in English. They like They're like, ich habe eine App heruntergeladen. Kommst du nach Hamburg mit? Nimmst du Wasser mit? Kommst du ins Café mit? Kommst du zum Markt mit? Nimmst du Kekse mit? Ja, Emma. Are you bringing cookies?
Du hast aber eine super Aussprache.
Danke.
Du sprichst die C1. Woher kommt das?
Okay, ja, ich lerne seit sehr langem Deutsch, aber ich habe gemerkt,
also,
dass
du sagst aus den USA, Winston spricht genau wie ein Amerikaner. Also da ist okay.
Gründliche Sache nicht beschreiben, also im Supermarkt und so, und ich dachte mir, ich werde ein paar Kursen machen.
Ja, super. Okay.
All right. You guys have seen me struggle enough. Actually, no. You know what? Let's not talk down to ourselves. You guys have seen me slay enough. Is that what the kids say? You know what? I think slay has gotten to the point where we just need to stop saying it because it just sounds millennial no matter what you do. But anyways, that's what you can expect in your Lingoda classes if you decide to take the sprint yourself. But now, okay, let's talk about my biggest takeaways from doing the sprint in German this time. After all the 2 months, after all these classes, what I feel like my biggest improvements were. All right, first of all, I feel like the biggest thing was prepositions. Just prepositions. It's so funny, but even after all this time, like I said, I was majorly struggling with prepositions in German. So I made it one of my focus points to really like pay attention to during classes, like in, nach, auf, zu, bei. The problem is in German, or just like a lot of languages, prepositions are everywhere and you can't avoid them. And also in German, like a lot of prepositions are tied to specific verbs in specific situations. So like it sounds weird if you mismatch it or use the wrong preposition. For example, like if you want to say it refers to, you say es bezieht sich auf. You can't say like es bezieht sich zu, which is what I might say in my English brain. But you know, with classes every other day, I was forcing myself to use them over and over, put them in context, make mistakes, get corrected by native and native level teachers, and that just made all the difference. And that was just from like all of my classes as a sum, but there was also a couple of classes that were specifically about prepositions, so I also made sure to take those. Yeah, you know, prepositions in German are just one of those things that you have to drill over and over to get them right, and I feel like I made some serious progress with them this time around. Now, another thing I feel like I got a lot better at is storytelling. This might sound random, but I've realized that storytelling is actually so difficult to do in another language, and I really struggle with it. I'm bad at it a lot of times, you know? Like with storytelling, you're managing so many different things at once in a language. You have to remember all the past tenses and when to use which past tense. You have to remember all the vocabulary that you need to, you know, actually describe the story, and you also have to like strategically keep it entertaining and interesting, like with your delivery. So it's a lot of balancing a lot of different things, and yeah, like I said, it's hard. And a lot of the prompts in Lingoda classes are asking you to like recall on your past experiences. So it'll be like, what is the spiciest food you've ever eaten? Or like, when's the last time that you went to a musical event? And like I said earlier, having a native level teacher there to support me, it just made all the difference, especially like reading the personalized feedback that you get at the end of every class. And from storytelling, you know, more on that, I guess one of my biggest takeaways or like a revelation that I had was about the past tenses in German. So for those of you that don't know, there are like two main past tenses in German. There's like the simple past, which is like I did, and then there's the present perfect, like I have done. And I realized I was basically using these two tenses the same way that I would use them in English, when that's not true. They're not used like with the same frequency as in English. Like in other words, I was using the simple past way too much, like ich ging, or like it feels so weird to say ich machte, because I found out that the simple past in German is used a lot less in like everyday speech and a bit more in writing, if that makes sense. So in everyday conversation, people tend to use the present perfect a lot more, like ich bin gegangen. So that was just like, I guess, like a small strategy adjustment to sound more natural in everyday conversations in German, especially when talking about like telling stories or talking about the past. And I would say my final, like my biggest takeaway from doing the sprint in German is that I've started to incorporate German a lot more in my everyday life. A lot of the classes in like the A1.1 section on Lingoda are like, I can do my grocery shopping in German. I can make my to-do list in German. I can talk about my schedule in German. So you're learning to like do these everyday tasks just in another language. And I kind of thought it would be fun to keep doing that just like as a little like immersive tradition with myself, to kind of use the language on an everyday, even when I'm not like actively studying it. So that's what I've been doing. I've been doing like all of my lists, all of my kind of like my organization and stuff in German. It makes me want to be more productive. I don't know why. It's just like a fun way to kind of like incorporate learning and just reinforce what I've already learned. So my friends, that was my most recent Lingoda sprint experience. But before we go, I did want to pass on some tips to you guys about like how to get the most out of your sprint experience if you're thinking about doing it, and answer the big question here: is it worth it for you to do the Lingoda sprint at all? My biggest piece of advice to you, a person doing the Lingoda sprint: listen to me, look into my eyes. Look at the materials before and after your classes. The reason for this is because on Lingoda you can view the slides, like the class material, before you even book the class. You can view it before class, so you could like prepare with it and practice before the class, and you can use it afterwards as a review material. So like, what's stopping you from doing that? And if you look at it after the class, you can actually see the annotated version where like, you know, sometimes the teachers, they'll write like practice sentences, they'll write like related words and expressions. So you have got to use the materials more as your learning material. Don't just come to the class and nothing else. Something I do right after every class on Lingoda is I'll go back to the slides and open them up and just try and do like all of the activities and prompts again, just on my own. Because I will say, like during the group classes, there are other people, so you have to be mindful of their time and like not take up the whole class just you speaking. So that's why I like to do it, is I like to like redo the prompts and the exercises just on my own with like as much time as I want, just talking to myself or, you know, practicing with the vocabulary however I want. The key there is like not relying on just the classes for all of your learning and all of your practice. Like the classes are there to initially introduce you to new topics and new vocabulary, but it's up to you to like work to retain it and apply it. And using the materials after class and continuing to, you know, practice what you've learned with like maybe their vocab review tools on the platform, that's what you can do in a really low maintenance way to work to retain it. If someone says to me that they like didn't get that much out of Lingoda classes, my first question to them would be like, what were you doing outside of classes? Like you can't just take the classes and expect that to do all of the work, because learning is like, I would say learning is like 25% the initial learning and then 75% like review and application. I think like as self-study language learners, sometimes we can be kind of spoiled because we do want like one resource to be everything for us sometimes, but you really have to put in the effort to, you know, study what you learn. Now, this last tip has been a lifesaver for me, a very busy person whose schedule like shifts all the time, but it's also in your best interest if you want to get your refund back. If you miss a single Lingoda class during the sprint, you cannot get your refund back. So listen up. Book your classes day of, at the beginning of the day when you know for sure what your schedule is going to be. Do not book classes like 3 weeks in advance, because almost certainly your schedule is going to change and then you'll miss a class and then poof. Because obviously you're just booking a group class, you can't like reschedule it. It's just the classes when it happens and that's it. Don't be late, don't miss your class. Everything's gonna be okay. The Lingoda Sprint is definitely worth it for anyone who's looking to boost their speaking skills in a short amount of time. If you have trouble building a habit and you just want to integrate language learning into your life more flawlessly, I cannot recommend it more. As someone who's done the sprint twice now, don't go into it with the mindset of like, what can I get out of this? You should think like, how can I use this time and these resources and this opportunity to the best of my advantage? And it is an opportunity. It's truly up to you at the end of the day to get the most out of you can and just squeeze everything that you can out of this challenge, because you can only do it once. You cannot do the sprint multiple times. Scary, I know, but it's cool. What a cool opportunity. It's not every day that, you know, a company just says, hey, we want to give you free language classes, and if you do all of them, we'll give you more. Like that's crazy. I would just love for you to try the Lingoda Sprint and do it yourself. So if you use my code AUG, that's Elise AUG, or you can just click the link in the description if you're lazy, you can get $25 off when you sign up to Lingoda. I feel so much more like prepared just for everyday life in Germany, and I feel like taking classes primarily at the basic levels just introduced like a lot of levity into my German, because for the past like year and a half I've just been like intermediate plateau. I want to be advanced. Like, so embarrassing. But Lingoda can truly do it all, whatever kind of situation you're in. If you've done the Lingoda Sprint before, or if you've taken classes on Lingoda, let me know down in the comments what your experience was. I really am curious what you guys' takeaways are. Speaking of takeaway, I have some Indian in the fridge that I would love to get into, so I got a jet. But have a lovely week. Wish me luck. I'll just be here selling all of my belongings, putting them up in boxes, and getting out of Dodge. So, tschüssi. Bye.